Logan, I have some bad
What
news.
what's going on, dude?
The world is 20% closer to doomsday than it was last year.
What the hell happened?
Well, according to this board of scientists, that they establish the time to seconds to midnight, where midnight is the doomsday of humanity. This bulletin of atomic scientists have moved us closer by 30 seconds. So we're now only 2 minutes from midnight.
We're only 2 minutes
And
from midnight.
yes. And so these people have been calculating this since at least World War II. It's some bad stuff. And the reasons why, among them are, potential conflict with North Korea and weakness in certain institutions like people's trust in politicians and the media. But one of the things they pointed at was that the population generally is more skeptical in the value of facts and evidence-based scientific conclusions about things like climate change. And so I actually think I might be part of the problem because I also don't really care about facts and I don't know why other people do either.
So you're telling me the world is ending because people don't care about facts anymore.
And it's partly my fault. I might be like patient zero of essentially the zombie apocalypse.
Good job, Nate.
Sorry. Welcome to Addiction Pal. I'm Nate.
And I'm Logan. And today we are going to talk about one of Nate's famous sayings of, I think facts are not interesting. So as you can tell from the doomsday clock ticking down from 2 minutes, not believing in facts is going to lead to the apocalypse. And Nate is a non-believer.
I'm not. I'm sorry about that. I think that you suggested that as a mathematician, I ought to care a lot about facts. But I think that's probably a misconception. I think that mathematicians actually care very little about facts. We study all these different properties about a circle, but if you come to us and ask us, hey, is this thing a circle? We'll tell you, oh, yeah, if it is a circle, then I know all these different properties about it. And you say, no. Is it a circle? And we said, I don't know, because that's how little mathematicians actually care about facts. And it seems like whether something is a circle or not should be important, not to mathematicians. So unfortunately, we're pretty disinterested in facts, unfortunately. And I think that maybe goes similarly with my other love of philosophy, that it's also kind of notoriously factless. And yet I love them, and I don't know why people would reject mathematical theory or philosophical discussions on the basis of not being factual.
So what we have here is, correct me when I'm wrong, part of this anyways, I'll call it a fraction of the circle, is what if statements or if then statements or any sort of imaginatory, is that a word? Idea.
Yeah, hypothetical statements. Are those, could we call those facts?
Yeah, so the example I like the most is, assume on Halloween a few years ago when you dressed up as Peter Pan and I was Peter Pan's shadow.
Mm-hmm.
I will ask this math problem. Assume Nate is Peter Pan and assume Logan is Peter Pan's shadow. And at this party, Nate chased me around in perfect costume, winning the Best in Character award at the Halloween party.
Now you're just bragging.
Yeah, we deserve it. Assuming that, does that mean that Peter Pan was chasing his shadow? And I think the answer to that question is yeah, because we're assuming that you're Peter Pan, I'm Peter Pan's shadow. You were chasing me around the house in perfect character, mind you. And so why not? We were Peter Pan and Peter Pan's shadow being chased around. We successfully chased our own shadow, disconnected from one another, and then we attached ourselves to each other in a beautiful scene. And then we separated again because it's really hard to be connected through a whole party.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's a true statement based on the definitions given. And yet, whether or not it's a factual statement, whether or not I actually am Peter Pan or was at the time, I could dispute.
Right. So you can dispute the premises if you really want to, but why? That's so boring. We can use examples like this, and use our imagination to come up with creative scenarios and stuff like that. And some people would argue that, well, it's not factual, then that is useless in life because only facts can help us in life. Or you can think, well, this could be analogous to a situation that you would use in reality, and it'll exercise your brain in certain ways, and yeah, it will help you. Also, like you were saying with the circle, actually, you can make a whole lot of progress by just simply assuming some things. I don't know if this is a circle or not. Let's just assume it is, okay? Because this is close enough for what we're trying to do. And then all of a sudden, we can discover so much more.
Yes. And I think that, go ahead.
Yeah, so why waste our time trying to figure out exactly what is a fact when we are talking about complicated, abstract ideas, when the important part is setting up scenarios that we can hypothesize and carry on?
So it seems like facts are these generally short, very concrete connections between our ideas and reality. Yes?
Yeah.
So facts are supposed to, I don't know, nail us down. And without facts, we enter into this realm of the hypothetical, into subjunctive thinking, where we can imagine counterfactual things. We can imagine things about the future that don't exist yet. And it seems to me like these kinds of dreams ultimately can come back and affect reality, that that maybe the founding fathers could imagine what this nation might be and set down the Constitution, our founding documents with that in mind, even though it doesn't exist in reality yet. It seems like that kind of future thinking, counterfactual thinking, hypothetical, subjunctive thinking is useful. That kind of creative thinking is useful while not being factual yet, at least.
Right.
And yet it seems like a lot of people care a lot about facts, among other things, because facts help them to feel like they are right.
Yes, if I say something that is a fact, it's indisputable, and therefore I am right, and I cannot be argued with. But
yeah. So when it comes to debate, argument, what you generally see in the realm of politics, in the realm of the media, it's a fact war, because everyone wants to be right.
So I guess my first question is, if you already know that something is a fact, if you know in your heart that it's a fact, why are you arguing it to begin with? Why even bring it up? If you're so convinced that something is a fact, why are you even going down that road? Why don't you just move on to something else that can be agreed or disagreed upon? Do you see where I'm going with that?
Well, it seems like facts are associated with rightness, and therefore not having all of the facts we associate with wrongness. And so when you see someone on TV and they have an opinion that disagrees with yours, your thought is, if they had all of my facts, then it's just a matter of proper deduction in order to arrive at my opinions. So this person must be ignorant of my facts, and that's all. And if only I can provide them with more data that I have and they evidently don't, then all can be solved. And if they have all of my facts and they come to a different conclusion, I don't know, they must be stupid, I think is the premise.
Yeah, that oftentimes seems to be the case.
And so I guess, first of all, I generally refuse to engage with someone in a fact debate, because it's not a cheerful thing and it's not very fun. And if it's just two sides throwing out facts and trying to be right, then it's not really a conversation. It's not really about being open to having your perspective changed, right?
Right.
It's about, I have this data in hand and I will bludgeon you with it until you concede defeat.
One way we could talk about this is to be open about your bias and to be open to other people's bias in terms of conversation and just listening.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah,
but at the same time, part of what inspired my thinking about this, why I wanted to talk about it today, is it's kind of in response to this YouTube video that we can link to in praise of bias, because it really struck a chord with me about why bias is actually a very good thing. That in a lot of people's mind, I don't think this is too much of an exaggeration, bias and discrimination are always wrong. And
Yeah,
in some ways, we should always be unbiased. We should always be indiscriminate, and basically, we should be fundamentally open to all perspectives and only proceed from facts to, I don't know, some sort of conclusions that you can arrive at by facts and deduction. And I think, first of all, I don't even really buy that that's actually how human beings operate. But even if people are honest and they really only care about facts and they don't ever have a bias, they don't really discriminate themselves, I think they are fundamentally ineffective, probably in living life, but certainly in changing the lives of others. Because it seems to me like even the act of giving advice is not entirely based on facts, right?
Yeah, of course.
Could you imagine giving someone advice only with facts? It's just a succession.
Impossible. That's
It's
the
a
whole point
succession
of
of like 2 + 2 is 4. Squirrels are mammals. The Earth is a planet. Like that kind of, and then deductions based on that. That's absurd. If you're saying,
Yeah.
hey, I had this, fight with my girlfriend. How do I resolve things? How do we move past this? And you just shout facts at this person.
Yeah, if I just say, yeah, well, women have 2 X chromosomes.
Yes, that's totally unhelpful. And so it seems like people actually, I have compassion for people who want to live in a fact-based world because they're wrong, but their hope is so understandable because they want to live in a world where truth, rightness, what is good is clear cut. It's not situational. It's not nuanced, and it's really just not complicated, right?
Yeah.
They want to live in the world where everything can be answered with, I don't know, a Google search. With
Especially in our era, right? Where we have information at our fingertips 24/7.
Right. But information isn't wisdom, right?
Right.
And so it seems to me like if philosophy is genuinely the love and therefore the pursuit of wisdom, then philosophy is not fundamentally factual. And probably the most important questions that human beings ask and want answers to, like, what's the meaning of life? How do you live your best life? How should you treat other people? What's the best way to raise children? And on and on. What's the best economic system? These are all fundamentally questions of perspectives on the world. The video describes a bias as really just a take on life. I watch Sports Center or whatever. People give hot takes, on these, but it's just a take where this is just your thoughts, your opinion, your perspective. It's not evidence-based. You can't cite a journal. And when it comes to something like these questions, the best you could potentially do, I guess, is cite someone else who gave the same factless opinion, right?
Yeah, what's the point of that?
And I think that's one of the reasons why, I don't know, scientists who participate in some sort of march to save science, or why kind of the journalism profession is failing, is because you can't turn to a newspaper for the most important things anymore.
Because it's too much of a fact war instead of just an advice.
Yeah. So if I have a choice between, a contemporary newspaper like, I don't know, the New York Times versus a self-help book, the self-help book is infinitely more useful to my everyday life. The self-help book doesn't include facts like, the body count of the war in Yemen, but it might give me better advice about how I ought to treat someone from Yemen, right?
Yeah, exactly. And here
go ahead.
Emerging from the rabbit hole, we're not trying to just barf a bunch of facts out. We're trying to openly express our views and what we think living the best life possible means. And if you disagree, great, leave a comment about it. But we're not looking for, a fact war, like you were saying. Generate discussions. Convince me I'm wrong if you want to. I'll listen.
And I think that there's something to be said about, without facts, you're just left with, I don't know, marketing, persuasion, manipulation, or something.
Right.
I'm wary of those sorts of things.
Yeah, but at some point, you just have to, like, at some point, I'll emphasize that again. At some point, you have to just trust the person that you're talking to, and whatever that means for you is whatever means for you. We can continue talking about this topic more on another cast. We can also link the video that Nate and I were referencing in the description box below if you want to watch that and then provide your input in the comment section. We can continue on with this conversation or branch off in another direction. If you have any questions or input on this kind of thing, let us know. But for now, I'm Logan.
And this is Nate.
Have a great night.